Good afternoon and welcome back to my channel, Auntie Avon. I'm Karen, and if you're new here then a big warm welcome. This is part of my Finding 50 series that is on this channel, and for the past few weeks we have been talking about my relationship or my marriage to my husband, who was and still is a narcissist. Basically, a narcissist is somebody that controls and likes to have control of everything, including you and everything that goes on around you and in their little circle. So if you've been watching, then you would have seen how we met and the first few years together, and then when we moved in together. So the last episode, the last part, I got up to where I had my first child, Matthew, and I had discovered a little baby group full of mums in, you know, very similar positions, and I had met my friend Betty there. So we had formed quite a good friendship, and it turned out really to be quite a good lifeline for me. So I'm going to continue on kind of from there. So this is part 4. So after meeting Betty at the baby group and kind of having this new lease of life, so as the weeks passed, I relished each Friday with a new sense of vigour. And I think I remember Pete noticing, he kind of, I don't know, maybe he resented it or he was jealous, I'm not quite sure, but there was definitely something about him that I would say that he resented it. That's how it felt. As more women joined our baby group, 6 of us hit it off. We were all very similar ages and very similar humour, and our way of thinking was quite similar, hence why we got on. Pete used to come home early on a Friday because that was just like the nature of his job. So after baby group I would go food shopping. When I got back I'd find him asleep on the sofa as usual, but you know, I kind of let him get on with that. I'd had a really good day, like I was trying not to let him affect my good mood. When he woke up, rather than him being all happy to see us, especially his little baby, you know, and sort of be all smiley and like greet us with a cuddle, he would often be grumpy, unhappy that I wasn't there when he got home, especially to welcome him home with a cup of tea and something to eat. The thing is, he's quite old-fashioned, or he was old-fashioned. He grew up in a very traditional household where, you know, mum was at home, dad worked, and mum took care of the house. Now, whilst I grew up equally in that same environment, my dad was much better, I think, and he always helped my mum, and he always had time like for us as children, whereas I think his parents, their routine was very regimented. So I can't really blame him for being like that. But he always gave me mixed messages, because like as years went on, he would want me to be at home, look after him, look after the house, look after the children, feed him, need him, you know, that sort of thing. But he'd also want me to go to work. So I think he was conflicted, maybe. Looking back now, that makes a lot of sense. If I had shopping, like unpacking the shopping on Friday, he would never help me with that. So I would have to put Matt in his pram whilst I did all of that. Like I said, I should have been unhappy, but I think the baby group had given me such a new lease of life, to use that term again, but not only that, I think it just made me happy because I had something to kind of aim for. I had something to look forward to the next week, and we were also, I think, starting to call each other at this point as well. So there was always somebody on the other end of the phone. It makes a big difference. I was able to block out Pete and his ways. I did excuse a lot of it because of work, and I know that was wrong, but you know, I was a mum, I had responsibilities, a house to look after, and the alternative, well, I didn't really know that there was an alternative back then. In August 98, my parents only lived up the road from me, so that was really good, and my beautiful grandma came to stay with them. So I was going there pretty much every day to show off my little man. Pete never came with me. Obviously he was at work, but secretly I actually liked the fact that he wasn't there, because I kind of started to notice that when I was there I could relax totally and be myself. So on the Saturday I said to him, I'm going to go. I don't think he was that happy, but I think he was just going to watch the football and probably sleep on the sofa. So I went, saw my grandmother, saw my parents, and we had such a good time, and my grandmother was holding Matthew on her lap and saying how heavy he was for her, because she was quite, you know, quite petite, quite a petite lady towards sort of her later years. But you know, the joy to see them all together, I mean, this was her great grandchild, so it was a really special time. And she lived in Nottingham at that time. We couldn't really see her every week, so this was special. Whilst I was there on that Saturday, Pete called me. When are you coming home? I've only been here an hour, I said to him. But you saw them yesterday and the day before, and I think the day before that. I know, but I don't see my nan that often, and she goes home next week, I was saying. So he put the phone down. About an hour later, the phone rings again. When are you coming home? Well, I've still not been here that long, and I think we're going to have something to eat. Well, I'm hungry, he says. And I'm kind of thinking, and, you know, you're a grown man, there's stuff in the fridge, you can make something to eat. No. He wanted me to come home and make him some lunch. Now, I remember sort of scoffing at the idea, thinking, who are you talking to? You know, I'm an adult, you're an adult, just get on with it, sort of thing. But once that seed is in your head, it's very, very difficult to sort of shut it off. And from that phone call and that minute onwards, he ruined that moment for me. He ruined my experience and my time at my parents', and I couldn't get that back. So I spent the rest of the time there. You know when you get that anxiety feeling in your stomach and it's all knotted, and you know that you should be doing something else, and if you don't do it, something bad is going to happen. That is exactly how I felt. So he took that whole experience away from me, and from my grandma, and from my parents, and from Matthew. And you know, thinking back to that time, I can still feel how I felt then, that anxiety in my stomach, and it was like this sense of doom. I thought, if I don't go now, he is going to kick off when I do get home, and it will just be far worse, so I might as well go. And he's ruined my enjoyment, or the enjoyment of the day, so what's the point of staying? And I think that's quite unforgivable, really, but that is a narcissistic trait. They put, I suppose, their own insecurities onto you, and because you do have a conscience, you absorb that, and then you take that on, and they've dumped it on you now, so it's gone from them and you've got it. So yeah, it's very hard to explain unless you've actually been in that situation. It's not a nice feeling. So that was like another incident, really. And I think over the next sort of few weeks, I kind of tried to block most of it out, because at the end of the day, it was one or two incidents here and there, sort of, but it wasn't enough, I think, to make me run for the hills. And I didn't really know where else to go. So you just kind of get on with it. And most of the time I was quite happy, and you know, Matthew always made me feel happy, so I just got on with it, really. Even going back to when he proposed to me. Now, I had always said to him, He knew exactly what sort of jewellery I liked. I like big, overstated jewellery, especially costume jewellery. I love. So it's not about the cost of a ring, it's about how I feel wearing it. And for me, and for every other woman, if you're not comfortable wearing that ring, then you're not going to enjoy it. And I think if you've got to wear it, it should be part of the experience for you and the process for you, and it should involve you. So when he did propose to me, and it was like the most unromantic proposal as well. So I think it was my birthday, and I sat on the sofa and I just had a shower, so my hair was up in a towel, I had no makeup on, and he sat on the sofa and pulled this box out and said, oh, you know, we've got this, we've got that, so, you know, do you want to marry me? That sort of thing. And I remember thinking, my first thought was not, yes, I'd love to. My first thought was, oh my God, I've got no makeup on. This is like the worst time ever. I feel like I look total pants. I don't like not having my eyes on, okay, let me tell you that. And I just don't feel dressed when I don't have my eyes on. My hair is up in a towel. I look, yeah, I don't look my best. So I felt rubbish. And I remember thinking, I want to cry, but not because I feel romantic, but because I feel angry and upset that you've asked me when I look like crap. And why haven't you taken me out to ask me? Why aren't we up the Eiffel Tower and doing something, you know, the big gesture type romantic thing? Anything. No, on the sofa with me in a towel, or my hair in a towel, and just looking like a pig, really. So that was the first initial thought. And then he opened up the box and showed me the ring. And you know, when you try and be pleased that you've got this gift that you really don't want, yeah, that's how I was. And he said, oh, you look a bit disappointed. And I was like, oh no, it's lovely. But now, like I said, I like big, overstated rings. Diamonds are my favourite, or even maybe, is it amethyst, that sort of look, the purple, or even a black stone, you know, is that onyx, something like that, because that's my character, and that is what I like, and that's what I would like to wear. But he said, oh, but you know, I didn't want to get you something like that because it's a bit crass and a bit too big, and engagement rings should be dainty and small. And I was like, to whom? Who are you saying that to? It's my choice. So that was the second part that I was really angry about, because he gave me this tiny ring. It had a sapphire and 2 diamonds, and that was it. But you know, I know that sounds ungrateful, and it wasn't anything to do with the cost, but I wouldn't have felt comfortable wearing it. And so that was the second part that I was angry about. But I think then that goes back to that control. It wasn't about me and what I wanted to wear, it was about what he wanted me to wear, or what he thought I would look better in. So again, disregarding any feelings or thoughts that I might have had. Another narcissistic trait. When we were organising our wedding as well, we kind of did it like in 6 months, because obviously we had Matthew at this time. And I remember him saying, you want the wedding, you organise it, and I will just turn up. And I think because I was so like, my head was in the clouds trying to organise a wedding in 6 months, it kind of washed over me. I think by this point I'd got so used to how he was that I just let it go. And I do think now, when I look back, I compromised way too much, and I think I gave in to him so many times because it actually gave me what I wanted, sort of, but not fully. So yeah, I definitely lost out like a lot in those early years because I compromised too much. my XR3i had got broken into, so it didn't ever feel the same after that. He took it and gave me his dad's car, his dad's old car, which was this boxy type Carlton, Vauxhall Carlton. It was one of the first or second shapes. I don't have a picture of it. I know I was supposed to put a picture up of my XR3i last week, but I'd had such a bad week and my head really wasn't in it completely, so I do apologise for that. If I do dig it out, I will put it in, maybe at the end or maybe in this part. So, and then we sold the XR3i and he got himself a Capri. I'd always wanted a Capri, and because my favourite show in the 70s, early 80s was The Professionals with Bodie and Doyle. Absolutely loved it. Bodie was my first crush, major first crush, so absolutely loved the pants off of him. And Bodie had the 2.8, I think, Capri, so I always wanted one. And then he went and got one. So he had that, and like I said, I ended up with his dad's Carlton, and I said, well, you know, this is your dad's car, you should have this. I don't feel right driving it. And he was like, no, you need it. He said, I'm having this one. I've got the more important job. I earn more money than you. End of argument. And that was it. So I ended up with his dad's car. You know, I mean, it was a car at the end of the day, so I was grateful for that. But up until then, I'd kind of always had my own cars and the ones that I picked, and suddenly that choice had been like taken away from me, and to then be told that your job isn't as important as mine, it's not nice. It's just not nice at all. I felt quite belittled by him, but again, it was hurtful, but not to the point where it destroyed me. So I was able to block it out and maintain daily life. I'd been back at work part-time, and my mum, bless her heart, she looked after Matthew, so we didn't even have any childcare costs. So when we first found out we were pregnant and we were telling his mum, he had asked his mum to share the childcare with my mum. And his mum, she turned around and she said, no, because I believe that a mum should stay at home with her child, not be out at work. And I think we were both so flabbergasted. We were like, oh, okay. I mean, I get it. She's very old-fashioned. She is of that mentality. But he quite rightly said, well, I'm sorry, Mum, but things don't work that way anymore, and women have to go out to work. He said, we need 2 wages coming in, and that's that. So she had said no. So my mum, bless her heart, looked after Matthew, and she even changed her hours so that they would fit in with us, so she could have Matthew 4 days a week, and I had Fridays off. So she had him 4 days a week for me, for nothing. I mean, that's an amazing mum. So, hi, amazing mum. During the wedding organisation as well, Pete had said to my parents that they needed to pay for our wedding because I'm their daughter, and they didn't tell me this till like a way long time after, so I didn't know at the time. I think they just kind of kept that in, but I think they were always a bit put off by that, and quite rightly so. I mean, Christ, you know, I wish I'd sort of known all these things, but they did keep a lot from me if he'd said things, because they didn't want to hurt me, and that's because they love me and they're my parents. But sometimes I do wish that they had have said something, because maybe it would have shaken me up. I don't know, maybe not though, you know, who knows. So on the 6th of March 1998 we got married in a registry office service. I had wanted a church, but he wouldn't go to church, so I used to joke saying that if he walked into a church he'd burn up. So I compromised on that. I also compromised well, I didn't compromise on this. He didn't want Matthew christened because he didn't believe in it, and that was that. There was not really a lot of conversation about it, but I felt bitterly disappointed because I am Christian Catholic. I don't practice it, but I do believe in some things like that, and I always wanted to get married in a church because it was important to me, and I love churches. I think they're really beautiful, and just to have that sort of taken away from me, yeah, kind of hard really. But again, I compromised because then I kind of got what I wanted in a roundabout way. I think when you're with a narcissist, it is, I think I've mentioned it before, it's like slow water torture. You know, it's that drip, drip, and it's so slow that you don't actually notice before it's too late. It almost becomes part of your normal, like, everyday life, so you just literally don't notice it. And I think that's a very clever thing that they do. It's the long game, and it's over such a long period of time. Like I said, it just becomes normal and part of everyday life, so you don't actually notice it. So the wedding was really good. We had such a fantastic day. I must admit, it was perfect day, perfect wedding, wrong man, end of. But, you know, the food was lovely, the staff were wonderful, the venue was amazing, just wrong man. After our wedding, things like returned normal, and then he lost his job. It was quite an awful time because he was at home like all day. After a few weeks, I think it kind of hit him hard. He refused to have Matthew, so Matthew still had to go to my mum's. I was still working, which I was relieved at the time because it meant I could get out. And to be honest, I was glad that Matthew had gone to my mum's because he needed to be away from that, and I didn't really trust him to look after him properly. I mean, well, he'd obviously refused anyway. He didn't even take care of the house. He was at home all day, but there was always an excuse. I'm looking for jobs, I'm tired, I have to be free in case if the phone rings, and then I have to go out, so I can't be doing housework and looking after the baby and things like this. He became worse. He became more irritable. There was no noise allowed in the house, which is really hard when you've got a small baby. You've come in from work, you're tired, and you want to do things. It was an extremely difficult time. He was impatient as well, and I think I was just worn down. I'd become a shadow of my former self. Our daily lives were awful, and he started to not bother to get up in the mornings until quite late. He'd go to bed late. He was drinking. I mean, he'd always liked to drink, but you know, he was starting to drink red wine, so I think that made him worse. So on my day off, which was the Friday, I was really looking forward to having that time off, so I thought I'd go like food shopping and I'd get all that done. So the morning was quite tense. He hadn't got up till late. I was sort of late trying to get everything sorted, and you know what it's like when you've got a baby, you can never get out the door at a set time. You kind of just have to hope for the best, really. So my mind was all over the place, and he was just like picking. I can't remember what he was saying, but he just picked. It was always something. You're going to do that, what about this, what about that? And it was just meat, 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 meat all the time, like a woodpecker pecking in your ear, and it's awful. It's just such a horrible feeling. So he was demanding and quite hurtful. So eventually I managed to get Matthew ready, and we went out in the car and we went to do a small shop at our local Iceland. Now the car park was on the top of the building, and then you had to get the lift down to the store. So I did that, put him in the basket, not in the basket, you know, in the seat. Yes, come on, get in the basket. So I put him in the little baby seat, strapped him in, and gave him a few bits. I think I gave him, like, he used to like a baguette, like just to chew it. Kept him quiet for ages. So yeah, so he was really good, and he was ever so good when we went shopping. He just loved being out and looking at people, and he always had a smile for everybody. So his smile always kept me going. But I did feel quite down this day, and I think over a period of weeks and weeks, or years I suppose of it, that day was particularly bad. We had done our shop, walking around the shop, and I was like putting all the bits in, but I wasn't fully concentrating. I got to the checkout, packed all the bags up, put them in the trolley, and all of a sudden I just kind of felt like eyes on me, and I was thinking, why is everyone staring at me? What have I done? And then the lady, the cashier, went, "Excuse me," like in that sort of tone. So I looked at her and I went, "Yes." And she went, "You have to pay for that, you know." So in all my mind fluffiness and bad mental state, I suppose at the time, I'd actually forgotten to pay, and I was just about to walk off. This is completely unintentional, and I just felt mortified, and all I could feel were everyone's eyes on me, like drilling holes into me. The judgmental sort of focus. I could just feel it. I was thinking, her tone had been unforgiving, and I was so embarrassed. I mean, granted, she didn't know what had gone on in my life, but I think if she'd said it with a joke and a laugh, I probably wouldn't have minded, but it drew everyone's attention, so they were all staring at me at this point. And even now I can feel and I can see it. At that moment, it was just horrible. So I quickly shoved the cash in her hand, waited for my change, didn't look up, and raced towards the lift. And we went up, and I was like so glad when those doors shut. It was almost like, oh, thank God they can't see me anymore, I can't see them. But I can imagine they were probably like, oh, can you imagine, like she nearly went off, oh how terrible, like shoplifter and stuff. So I got to the car, put all the shopping in the boot, put Matt in his car seat, sat in the driver's seat, and then I just kept replaying that moment, that embarrassing, mortifying moment, and it was just horrible. I just remember feeling so hurt. I was exhausted and feeling so alone, and I just cried. The tears just kept flowing and flowing, and I was sobbing like uncontrollably. I just couldn't stop. You know when you're going like that, sort of sobbing. I mean, I smile about it now, obviously. It was a long time ago now, and although I don't feel the emotion that I felt then, I remember how it felt, and it was quite a dark day. So I turned round because I could hear Matthew like gurgling, and I turned round and there he was in his car seat smiling at me. And that is what stopped me from crying, and it's what got me through. And I was thinking, look at that little face and his beamy little eyes, and it was like he knew. He couldn't actually physically say, "Oh Mum, come here," and give me a big cuddle, but it makes me feel quite sad, that. Ooh. But anyway, it was that literally just got me through that moment. And I felt like Matt and I were like best buddies, and he was always there. So, and when you're a mum, you don't want your child to be tainted by all the crap that's going on. So you always do your best, don't you, to shield them from any like external harm, albeit mental, emotional, physical. I know that I think at that point I should have walked away from him, but I was too invested, and stupidly I loved Pete. I was married, I had a house to look after and responsibilities, it's hard to just walk away from all of that. So he got a new job over the next coming weeks, and to be honest, it was so much better. It was closer and he had more money, so things really started to step up a gear. It was like he'd got about 10 grand more a year, which was a massive difference, but that would come with responsibility. But at first, the first few months were fantastic, and I think life really started getting better. You know, he seemed to be more into Matt and sort of paying him a bit more attention, and we just had a better time. And then we started talking about having another baby, so that was really good, because we had already discussed that we kind of decided we wanted 4, 2 boys, 2 girls. That was what we wanted, so we were kind of going in the right direction. And with his job, he seemed to really love it, and he met this guy there who he really had a lot of admiration for. He did look up to him, and he was quite funny. He was very posh. We called him Posh Boy, but he was great. He was such a laugh, and he used to come round for dinner, and he really loved Matt. He used to like hold him like kind of weirdly, like, ooh, what do I do with this? That sort of thing. But he did really, you know, he sort of bonded with him, and we just had a really nice time. It was a good sort of, it was a good friendship for Pete, I think. So, you know, the months went on, and he just seemed to be better. So we started to save quite a bit, and he said to me, he said, when you have like the next baby, he said, do you want to like give up work and like stay off? And he said, we'll put some money into some savings accounts. So everything was really good, really good at this point. My job was pretty good, you know, although I was part-time, I was still earning pretty good money. So like I said, everything seemed really rosy at that time. And we sort of said, you know, if we end up having another baby, brilliant. And we've been putting money away, so we'd set up a few savings accounts in order to have, when I had another baby, I could give up work and we could kind of survive off his money, and that was there just in case we needed anything extra. Brilliant. You know, we'd planned it right this time, and I just thought, this is great financially. I mean, you know, we were in a good position when we had Matthew, but this would be even better, which is right, and it's the progression, isn't it, of a relationship, and it is how you should be. So around October 2000, I remember calling Pete and Matthew, who was about 2.5 at this point, into the bedroom, and I said, okay little family, us 3 are about to become 4. And Pete was overjoyed when I showed him like the pregnancy stick, and I showed Matthew, and I was like, you know, these 2 lines here says that mummy's got a baby in her tummy. And I remember him like putting his face and his eyes right against my stomach and going, there's a baby in there? Like, I can't see, you know, like, where is it? Because they're so cute, aren't they, when they're about 2.5, and you know, they're so sweet and innocent, and everything they say is funny. So yeah, that was quite a special moment for me, you know, for all of us. I think it was just right, it had fallen right. So when the baby would come, Matthew would be about 3 and a bit, 3 and 2 months roughly. So that was good. So we thought we would arrange a holiday. So we went away just on one of those summer holidays. And it was good, you know, it was good, but I don't know, it wasn't as good as it could have been. I don't think I was feeling too good at the time, you know, sickness and stuff, and Pete was still Pete at the end of the day. He, although we didn't have any financial worries, he was still lazy and still didn't really help. And I kept saying, oh, you know, maybe take Matt out because I don't feel very well, and he'd be like, well, I don't really want to take him out. I think, you know, he needs to go to bed or something like that. So it was always like little stupid arguments. And the holiday, it was only 4 days, but I was quite grateful to be back home. We'd also gone to Bognor, Regis, Butlins Bognor on the sun holiday with our friends. And we went with them, but even her husband kept saying, God, he's so lazy, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. And I kept looking at her husband thinking, why can't mine be like that? You know, he does like everything, like with the kids, he looks after them, you know, nothing's too much trouble. He gets all the luggage out of the car and he puts it all away. And meanwhile, mine's sat there rolling a fag and moaning about something or other. So yeah, the holidays that we kind of had were never brilliant. Anyway, so we now roll forward to May 2001. I was about 2 weeks off dropping. I was about 2 weeks off giving birth, and Peter decided that we should go on another summer holiday to the Isle of Wight. So we picked this really nice place. So we'd taken all my notes and the bag and everything just in case. So I was like, oh my God, you know, our baby could be born in the Isle of Wight. But it was a really good holiday actually. It was very nice, very relaxed. We had quite a good laugh. He did take Matt out a few times, so that was really good. But I was tired, very tired. You know, I was right near the end. He was due on the 31st of May. So we get back home. We've still got like a week left now. He didn't arrive. He didn't arrive. Then he didn't arrive on the 31st of May. So a few days later I'd gone to the doctors and they said, you know, obviously you're gonna sort of be, you're gonna be too far overdue soon, so we're going to have to induce you. So if the baby hasn't come by then, you will be going into hospital on the 12th of June to be induced, basically. So I was like, oh God. And I remember like wanting like the baby to come, or we tried all the tricks. You know, they say don't they to have sex, have a hot curry, do this, do that. Yeah, we tried everything. Nothing worked. Baby wasn't coming out anytime soon. So on the 12th of June, my mum turns up. Well, I think Pete went to pick her up actually. So my mum had stayed overnight because we had to be into hospital for 8 o'clock in the morning. And I remember my mum and Matthew standing at the door and they were going, bye, bye mummy, bye mummy. And I was waving to Matthew saying, oh look, his cute little face. And he's like, okay. And then he just slammed the door, like bye, bye then. And because he had his nanny there now, you know, mummy's obsolete now. And we went into hospital and they gave me an injection to induce me. So up till this point, nothing was really moving. And I remember speaking to my mum on the mobile phone and we were going for a walk because the nurse said you have to just now walk around to try, gravity will bring baby on. I'm like, okay. So literally I went from no pain, no contractions, to full-on pain and full-on contractions, to the point where I went, I have to go, and I just like dropped the phone. I remember thinking, oh my God, and I was like doubled up in pain because there was no progression. Like when you, like with Matthew, obviously I'd had a few days of Braxton Hicks, so my uterus and everything else was getting used to it. But this just came on bang like that. I didn't really have time to think. So as we got to the end of the corridor, I managed to walk back, like Pete was with me, so we managed to walk back to the ward or the maternity suite. And I just said to him, I think I'm gonna push, I want to push. And he's like, oh my God. So we like quickly, as quick as a fat pregnant duck can walk or waddle back to the maternity suite. We, you know, get everyone sort of like, okay, we're all sort of ready, and a few pushes and out he came. All little wrinkled things, sort of like, oh, just put me back, I'm not ready yet. He's still pretty much like that now. Yeah, so there he was. He arrived and he weighed £8 5 ounces. So Monday the 12th of June 2001. So yeah, and I remember Pete went home to get a few things and he brought Matthew back to see the baby. And I remember I had Mark like tucked up in the bed with me, like just under the sheet, like obviously not touching his face or anything. So I was like hiding him from Matthew, and he walked in and he sort of came over to me, like his little hands on the bed, and I remember saying to Matt, wow, haven't you grown, you look enormous, because obviously seeing Mark now as a baby and then looking back at my 3-year-old, he was, you know, quite big. So he was exactly 3 years, 3 months and 3 days, like difference, sort of younger. Yeah, younger than Matt, which has always fascinated me because they're very, very similar. They're very alike in lots of ways. They finish each other's sentences now, and they do look very, very alike, like twins. I'm going to insert a photo now we did on Snapchat. You know the filter where you swap faces? We did this one. Now this is them like before, so with their own faces. And then this is them on the Snapchat filter with their swapped faces. It just makes me laugh every time I see it because they don't actually look any different. You can tell that something is different, but you're not quite sure what. I just think the look on their faces as well is hilarious. Like they're like, yeah, pretty good. So Matt said, where's the baby? So I pulled the sheet back and revealed him. And his little face, and he was like, oh, look at how small he is. And it's those little moments. And I think all those moments kind of kept me going during the marriage and our whole relationship, really. If it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would even be here now, if I'm honest. I think he would have ground me down to that point. So yeah, not good. But anyway, I'm going to stop it there because there is so much, but if I keep going, it takes me ages like to edit these videos. And this is going up tomorrow because it's Sunday now. Normally I would be filming this on a Friday, so I'd have kind of a weekend, but again, I've not had the time, and I decided to go and see my cousin on Friday, Christine. So hi Christine, hope you're okay. And we had such a great day, and it was really nice just to get away from things, like for a little bit. Okay, right. So next week, obviously it will be part 812, I'm sure, by now. And I hope that you have enjoyed this one. If you have, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you next week in the Finding 50 series. Like I said last week, I was supposed to do an Avon video, but literally with moving as well, I've had so many appointments, and then I started back at work as well, so there was all of that, and I've just literally not had a minute to sort anything out. I'm going to try. I'm not going to promise, but I'm going to try to upload at least one video in the next couple of weeks on Avon. If you do like the Avon, make sure to head over to my Avon Facebook, which should be across the screen now, and take a look on that. I do have Instagram as well, so please, you can follow me on there, and I should put up a lot of stuff on there, but again, yeah, it's not really going to plan at the moment. Right, I'm going to sign off because I'm absolutely starving right now, and if you haven't heard my stomach rumbling during this filming, then you are lucky. So that leaves me to say, have a fantastic week, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please comment in the comment box below, and I will see you next week. Until then, bye for now.